watching Channel Africa Conversations.
We cannot talk about democracy without justice. We cannot talk about development and peace without justice. You know, we need to run a country that respects the rule of law, a country that is guided by that constitution that we have. So when the law is being, people step on the law and they become more powerful than our laws, than our constitution, then we cannot talk about democracy. It doesn't exist almost at the moment.
Hello and welcome to Channel Africa Conversations. I'm your host, Peter Ndoro. Today in conversation, we are joined by Ambassador Francine Muyumba Nkanga. Now, she's a distinguished lawyer, political activist, and former senator from the Democratic Republic of Congo, the DRC. From her early days as the first international student elected as president of the Student Representative Council at the University of Namibia, to her groundbreaking tenure as the first female president of the Pan-African Youth Union, the PYU, Ambassador Muyumba has consistently championed youth empowerment, gender equality across Africa. She was equally elected as a senator in 2019, representing Katanga province and chairing the Senate's Commission on Foreign Relations. And she brings a wealth of experience and insight into the political dynamics of the DRC and the continent at large. Ambassador, great to have you on the program. Thank you so much indeed for joining us.
Thank you, Mr. Peter. Thank you for having me.
So we have a lot of people who have been hearing the story of the DRC and from news bulletins.
Yes.
And most of it is current because of the nature of news. But I suspect that what we're seeing at the moment has a historical context. And I wonder if we can begin there. If you look back in time, what would you say have been perhaps some of the key moments that have shaped the DRC to become the country that it is now and facing the challenges and vulnerabilities that it has now?
Well, to start, in terms of the DRC's historical context, we look at the pre-colonial, and then came the colonial era, then the independence, as well as the crisis after independence with the assassination of our first Prime Minister, Patrice Emery Lumumba, and also the dictatorship era of 32 years, the time of Mobutu came to power through a coup. And after that, we look at the two Congo wars in 1990s, and also the democratic transition that started in 2006 through elections, the first multi-party elections that we had in the country, and then came the 2011 elections as well as the 2008 elections, the first transition of power in 2018. So in terms of the pre-colonial era, there's what we call the existence of the kingdoms, such as the Kingdom of Congo, the Lunda and Luba empires at that time, and later on came the powerful man, Leopold II of Belgium, who ruled with serious human rights problems that way, because he was considering Congo as his private property and so on. Then came in 1960 the independence through the struggle of Lumumba and others, and then between 1960 and 1965 we experienced the crisis immediately after independence with the assassination of Patrice Emery Lumumba at that time, and Congo was led by Kasavubu as the president. by that time. Then after 1965, came now Mobutu, who ruled for about 32 years of dictatorship, and of course for corruptions and all these problems that were attached to his leadership. So in the 1990s, precisely in 1966, there was the beginning of the First War of Congo, whereby President Mzee Laurent Desire Kabila came to liberate the country from dictatorship from 1996 to 1997. And immediately in 1998 came the Second War of Congo up to 2003, with also the assassination of Mzee Laurent Desire Kabila in 2001. So President Kabila now, the son, came to power immediately. So since 2023 to 2006, there were a lot of challenges in terms of instability in the country, and they came the first multi-party elections in 40 years. So this gave the country a chance to begin a democratic system, and they came in also the Sun City Dialogue, which brought everyone on the table, because the country was divided almost into four. So it brought civil society, you have political actors, and you have the religious movement and everyone, which was a success, and which led also to the existence of our constitution, the constitution that we are having today in Congo, and also facilitated a transition, a democratic transition, though with a lot of challenges, with a very young democracy that needs to grow. So from 2016, then we went to 11 second experience for elections, and then came 2018 with the election of President Tshisekedi into power, though with a lot of challenges, but it's our first transition of power. Is a young democracy that needs to grow. But in conclusion, in terms of the context of the historical context of Congo, but then from 2018 to now, the country is experiencing a lot of challenges that you are all about, including the problems of instability. Our people are demanding real peace. Our people are demanding development and justice. And this is really the struggle of the country at the moment. Joseph Kabila came in 2003, and tried, the first objective was stabilize the country, to make sure that we start a democratic transition, which was a success. And then later on, he had to put institutions in place that were almost not there. And it was so challenging, funding a country, start to lead the country which is unstable, leading the country whereby rebels were everywhere. He had to bring everybody together, to have institutions, and to put the country to a democratic path.
Okay, so a lot of the times, again, when you tune into the news and read political analysis, they often point to the Congo's minerals as perhaps the biggest source of conflict. Is it as simple as that the minerals are drawing in international actors, and that domestically part of the problem that you're seeing has a lot to do with where these minerals end up?
Well, it all comes to the issue of governance. And I strongly believe that when we practice good governance, we can be able to well manage our resources that need to benefit our people. This is the first objective. If I may say, I think the minerals and all the conflicts attached to these minerals is simply because of internal divisions and internal problems. I strongly believe that if we organize ourselves very well, everybody can come legally in a more organized way to try and legally have partnership with Congo in terms of minerals and so on. So it's all about all these issues of justice, impunity, the issues of corruption, the issues of divisions, the speeches of hate and all these things, and lack of reconciliation and the problems around us. And I believe that the country needs a very strong leadership to try and impose good governance.
All right, let's talk a little bit more then about this internal dynamics of DRC politics at the moment. What is the political space like? Is there democracy at play? We see people going to elections. What is the situation, especially for someone like you who's in opposition politics?
Well, Peter, we cannot talk about democracy without justice. We cannot talk about development and peace without justice. You know, we need to run a country that respects the rule of law, a country that is guided by that constitution that we have. So when the law is being, people step on the law and they become more powerful than our laws, than our constitution, then we cannot talk about democracy. It doesn't exist almost at the moment. Justice brings stability, and injustice and stepping on the rule of law invites instability, because there are people who are going to differ with the way things are done. There is no development in Congo. There is no the rule of law. Nobody cares. And we cannot achieve real peace. Peace is not all about silencing the guns. Peace is about national reconciliation. Peace is all about cohesion. Peace is all about respecting the rule of law. No one should be above the law. And that is the only way we can ensure peace and stability in the Democratic Republic of Congo. And that is what also the current leadership does not want to accept. I'm not saying it because I'm in opposition only. I'm saying this because this is the fact. This is what is happening. And you cannot look for peace when you don't want to respect the rule of law. You cannot search for the peace worldwide while internally you don't want to respect the Constitution. It doesn't make any sense. I was in Parliament recently. I was in Senate. And then we saw how the Constitution was violated without any even reserve. You are having you are changing the parliamentary majority mid-term. That is against our Constitution. That is violating our Constitution. You are appointing members of the Constitutional Court in violation of the Constitution. You are appointing members of the process of choosing members of the Electoral Commission. It was done in violation of the Constitution without political consensus. So that is actually putting the country already in destabilization, in instability.
So there have been many attempts by the African Union and regional bodies like SADC, East African communities even tried to assist. Have they done enough? Is it that they are unable, or maybe even perhaps not trying hard enough to help DRC?
Well, as a diplomat, I can't sit here and say that they haven't tried. But I agree with you. for the fact that they haven't also tried enough. They have tried, but not enough. I'm quite disappointed by our regional bodies. I'm quite disappointed by the African Union and all these regional bodies. They have tried, but at the end of the day, if there are no concrete internal efforts, regional bodies can try, but they will not succeed. This is first our internal problems that also need internal solutions to bring Congolese solutions for Congolese problems. So as far as these internal problems, fundamental issues, the core issues are not finding solutions internally, then we are not helping the international, the regional bodies also to succeed. Now, it's also a problem of approach. The approaches used by regional bodies are not the correct one. And that way, we are away today. And there came even the issue of SADC and the deployment and so on. I was consulted before SADC deployed soldiers in the east of the Democratic Republic of Congo. And I had to put things clearly to them and advise some of them that, listen, it's more than a military issue here. It's more of a political issue. So deploying is not bad, but it needs to be accompanied by a political process. Because there are issues of corruptions on the ground. There are issues of bad governance on the ground. There are issues of violating laws and the constitutions. There are internal issues that Congolese are having, not only the armed opposition in the east of Congo, but also the unarmed opposition, which is not armed. They are having also problems and issues that to be addressed. The civil society are having issues to be addressed. So if you think the only solution for peace in Congo is military, then you are missing it out. And this is where SADC did not get it well. SADC supposed to work hard on a political process, trying to help Congolese to come together, discuss their issues, so that even the military deployment can also be successful. So the regional bodies have failed completely. Excuse me to be a bit alarming, but this is the way. We cannot have African issues to be dealt with in Washington or in Doha or in European Union. Why is the African Union there? Does the African Union still exist on this continent? Where is SADC? And our heroes, our founding presidents, where they are really questioning themselves if really, I don't think they're proud of what we are doing in terms of the way we deal with issues in Africa.
An interesting time when President Thabo Mbeki was president of South Africa, and you spoke about it briefly a short while ago, that there was a gathering that took place at Sun City,
yes.
A discussion, a process. Is that something that could work again now? But I suppose it requires willingness by all parties to come together to find a solution.
Yes. We come back at this time. Congo is at that point of sunsetting. And I think it's the only way. President Kabila recently spoke, and he clearly outlined some of those issues in 12 points. And he was very clear. We must all work toward peace. Because what is happening in Congo, our people don't deserve it. Be it in the east of Congo or elsewhere. We must be agents of peace. There is a process that the religious leaders have been working on, Senko, to try and bring all Congolese together to find solutions, but there is no commitment and political will from the leaders in Kinshasa to make sure that this initiative of the religious leaders succeed. So basically, we cannot find solutions without sitting at a table and we address these issues and find solutions. So President Kabila has put on table some suggestions in terms of how we can overcome these issues. And he called everyone to contribute and say, guys, we need to end these issues of corruptions. We need to bring back the rule of law. We need to respect our constitution. We need to bring the country toward national cohesion, national unity. We need to avoid these divisions and discrimination, including the speech of hate and all these problems. We need to take back the country to the rule of law. And we need to also support the initiative of the religious leaders in terms of us finding solutions. This is something that President Kabila has brought forward. So now it requires a political will from the Kinshasa leadership to be able to say, okay, this we can do, this perhaps we cannot do. And we think we should approach our religious leader, since us as politicians, we are not able to find solutions to these problems. Let us embrace this initiative of religious leaders and sit at a table. We find solutions. If people really love Congo and they are patriotic, they will focus and they will commit in a way that take us toward peace and stability in the Congo. If they look at personal interests and power, the way they put it, even if the will of revising the constitution so that they could stay more in power, as they have shown it, they have said it, that they want to revise the constitution, and the objective is to go beyond the two constitutional mandates. So this is why you see people differing, and they're saying, you have to stick to the constitution. You are not going beyond the two mandates as per the constitution. So you people, you said Kabila could not go beyond two mandates, and there was a lot of pressure from the international community. There was a lot of pressure from opposition parties and all these things, the civil society, and Kabila had to step back and say, okay, we need to keep the country stable. It's not about me as a man, Kabila. It's about the future of our children. It's about the future of this country. I'm stepping down. Other people are coming into power. Why should others refuse to do the same as Kabila did in 2008 and having now initiatives of wanting to revise the constitution? That is a red line which now pushed people even to hostilities and push people to saying, no, we have to stop these people. We will not allow them to revise the constitution, and will not allow them to go beyond two mandates. So all those issues are pushing people to say, we have to take this and this decision.
You've been mentioning the law quite a bit, and I'm just wondering if you could help us navigate what we're seeing recently. President Kabila is having his immunity removed. The government says that they want to investigate and charge him with crimes committed whilst he was president. Take us through that process in terms of legality and the constitution. And also, with all of this happening, President Kabila has decided that it's important for him to return to the DRC at this time. Why do you think he's done that?
Well, Peter, there are really alarming issues in Congo, which the continent and the regions tend to ignore. And I believe that it's not late. We can find solutions. I'm going to speak as a lawyer, not as a politician. In terms of lifting up the immunities of President Kabila, I want to say here that Congo has a specific law in regard to the former presidents. And our constitution is clear. In terms of that law, I think Article 77 and 222 is to verify. They are very clear. The Senate does not hold any legal authority to deal with such matters in regard to the former presidents. So what the Senate did, lifting up or waiving the immunities of a former president, it was illegal, completely illegal, in violation of the Constitution and in violation of that specific law of former presidents. The immunities of President Kabila comes from the law of former presidents, a specific law, not on him being a senator. A senator is not an elected mandate for former presidents. Is more of an honorific mandate that is given to them. So it's not those immunities of being senator that he has as the former president. It attached to his position of president in the past of the Democratic Republic of Congo, like also President Tshisekedi will become a former president in 2 years, because he has to forget about revising the Constitution of the Democratic Republic of Congo. We had a transition, a democratic transition. We have to keep it, and everybody must stick to the rule of law. So they did not have that legal authority to do so, and this is now makes everybody differ, and going into like no option that we have to do this to stop this. So the only way we can stop this, we have to do this and that. And on top of that, many violations of human rights, arresting of political leaders. Most of the major opposition leaders are out of the country. They're in exile, including Governor Katumbi and all those that are outside. And there are things that are happening that are terrible. All opposition parties, when your passport expires, the government refuses to renew your passport. So you cannot have a passport anymore. My children of only 3 years old were taken passports away at the airport of Kinshasa. Serious human rights problems that are happening in Congo that people are not talking about and are believing manipulations of the regime in Kinshasa.
Let's talk a little bit more about you now. I know that the youth is something that's close to your heart and something that you've dealt with for many years now. And you started off quite young in terms of leadership, youth movements. Take us through that journey and how that's shaped you, particularly when we look at gender issues as well.
Well, having served Africa, I remain committed to the continental agenda. It's in my blood, actually. I am a product of the region. Many countries have contributed to who I am today, including South Africa and Namibia, Zimbabwe, and many other countries. I've worked for Africa almost my entire life. Serving Africa is something that it's always here in my heart. And having visited more than 48 countries in Africa out of 54, and also going around the world to represent Africa, having served with all governments of the continent, and also with heads of states, as well as the AUC chairperson, Madam Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma. I think that I remain a continental product, and Africa everywhere is home for me because I'm always welcome. And my experience on youth and women is always something that I always promote. It's not because I left the youth activism that I forgot about youth representation and youth development or women development. But in terms of gender in my country, South Africa is really ahead, including when we look at the constitutional framework, as well as in the parties where, for instance, in the ANC, there's a 50-50 quota and all these things. These are the things that we have not seen coming in Congo, and women experiencing a lot of problems in leadership, especially cultural norms, and also discrimination, and without really we need serious legal reforms in terms of women representation and trying to have this quota strategy, but to put in power competent women, not just any women. We are not saying that they should impose women into positions or any woman, but we also look at the quality of women that we are bringing forth. So Congo still has a lot to do in terms of gender, and I strongly believe that we are all working toward that in our activism and all these things. And the youth of Africa, I came up with a foundation which holds my name, the Foundation Francine Muyumba. It's already in some African countries, and it's really helping the young people in terms of leadership, development, education. We have done quite a lot with scholarships. We have more than almost 60 scholarships, university scholarships for young people, and also we are pushing young women toward leadership and also entrepreneurship, because we believe that only entrepreneurship that can help Africa fight the issue of unemployment and us funding youth objectives and so on. When the African Union, let me say it here honestly, that we were really helped by Dr. Nkosazana and Dlamini Zuma, because she believed in the youth and the women. She gave the youth a platform. She gave the youth a place, a really good place in the African Union, where we could stand boldly in front of heads of state and talk to them, talk about youth issues, women issues. And she was so committed to the issues of women and youth. And she groomed, including all of us in the African Union and so on. She's one of these African visionary leaders that could see far and brought young people, groomed them, and helped them. And she shaped the future of Africa, and I'm one of the fruits of those that she shaped at the African Union. So basically, the struggle continues on youth development and both women development.
La lutte continua for sure. Perhaps let's start rounding up this conversation and look to the future. At the beginning, you talked about remaining committed to a vision for the continent. Tell me a little bit about the vision you have for Africa, and also if that might mean you need to take up a position perhaps in a senior place on the continent.
Well, as I said, Peter, I have served Africa, and I remain committed to the continental agenda. If time and circumstances allows it, why not for me to go back to the continent and save the continent? Is with time and the support, of course, of countries. South Africa is a home to me, and South Africa has supported me throughout my leadership, both at continental level and also the representation of Africa I had. My first mandate, I was backed up seriously by South Africa, and it's something that I'm always grateful of, and I believe that with the support, including of South Africa, whenever I want to go to international positions, and also support of my country and other African countries, I can be able to go back to Africa and save Africa. So my vision for Africa is that we must be able to find solutions to our problems. I don't want to sit today and realize that Kwame Nkrumah Patrice Emery Lumumba, Sekou Touré, and all our heroes died for nothing. And we're in a struggle that is not benefiting us today, both economically and politically, Mwalimu Nyerere and so on. So these people did not fight for our dignity, for our freedom, so that today we can start taking our problems to Washington, so that today we can start taking our problems to Doha, so that today we can start taking our problems to Belgium or to Paris. They fought so that we could have the freedom to take our own decisions, to lead our countries as per our norms, the way we think we should lead our countries with freedom, to have our resources that can benefit our people, our resources that can benefit African industries, not foreign industries. I would like Minerals of Congo to benefit South African industries, not international industries. I would like the resources of Congo to benefit Egypt's industries and so on. So we need to have these free movements. We need to have unity. We need to come on board and say, okay, this African passport, each African must have that African passport. We must move in Africa without this issue of visas. How can America or France and so on come to Congo without visa, and I have to ask South African to come to Congo with visa? It doesn't make any sense. So we must work toward these real issues and say, this is the issues of development. This is the trade issues. This is the issues of peace. We need to work seriously on issues of Africa, of Africa's development, of Africa peace and stability. We cannot have an African Union which is funded by European Union. Come on, come on, and it's not serious.
Yeah.
And it's clearly that even decisions that we make, they are being influenced because we are funded by international donors. Do you mean that today Africa cannot fund the African Union? It's a big shame. And I believe that the country like Congo, my country itself, Congo can lead the Africa's economy just by its mineral resources. So it needs good governance, and this is how we can take Africa forward. My vision for Africa is very clear. We go there in the African Union. We sit on serious issues. We don't just go there for allowances and all these issues. And so we need to address core issues of Africa. Today we have crisis in the Sahel. Today we have crisis in the Great Lakes region. Today we have so many problems in the continent. Where is the African Union? Why should the problems of Congo be discussed in Washington? Why should the problems of Congo be discussed in Doha and so on? So we are questioning the regional bodies. Where is SADC? Where are all these regional, the East African community and all these issues? So my issue here is that Africa need to wake up. Africa need to wake up and to deal with these issues. We cannot have a declaration on Congo in Washington where they say that, including the African Union, including the SADC, including so and so African heads of state. It's a big shame. So this is not what our heroes died for and what they fought for.
Ambassador Francine Muyumba Nkanga, it's been a pleasure talking to you. Thank you so much for your time, and we wish you the best, and we have no doubt that as much as you've blazed quite a trail in leadership to date, maybe in the future you may be able to do the same for our continent again. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, Peter. Thank you for having me.
And that's how we come to the end of today's Channel Africa Conversations. Thank you so much indeed for tuning in. Please, before we go, don't forget, we'd love to hear from you. So on your screen now, you'll see our social media pages and contact addresses where you can communicate with us. What did you think of the conversation that we had? What kind of conversations would you like to see in the future? Write to us, let us know. Until the next time, from me and the team, goodbye.